I think still participants are joining with us. Did you receive the recordings of the previous lectures? Did you receive the recordings of previous lectures?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And we want to do an assignment also, right? As a component of the continuous assessment. So I have set the assignment, and the submission date according to the schedule would be on 7th of October. As time permits, today at the end of this discussion, we will discuss the assignment also, right? So I will guide you how to prepare that. And also on the last date of this HRD Day School series, there will be a classroom assessment, okay? Classroom assessment. So with that, we will give you some topics and we will form few teams. So as the teams, you want to virtually interact and be prepared for the group presentation, okay? So that will be notified by next week, before next Sunday, okay? Right. So then today we will start the lecture without taking more time. So today we want to start some of the important areas coming under HRD in practice, practical areas of human resource development. First, we will look at performance management and coaching, or managing performance and coaching is one of the key area that we want to be addressed. Right. Now, if we take about managing performance, you are very much familiar with performance appraisal or performance review or performance evaluation. But this managing performance is somewhat related with performance management. So performance appraisal, you basically use a standardized rating form, right? You know that, especially in line with the annual salary increments, right? In most of the organization, as well as in line with performance management practices in some of the reputed organizations. They do this performance appraisal. Therefore, it is basically using some sort of standardized formats, and based on that, they do a certain rating, right? Rating forms that is used to evaluate various aspects of employee performance in terms of the quality of work, as well as the completion level, right? As well as in terms of the psychological attachment or loyalty or commitment towards the organization, as well as in terms of how far the employees have been driven on realization of given targets, right? So in terms of all those areas, the various aspects of performance will be basically reviewed on a certain periodical basis. In most of the cases, we see that most of the organizations are doing this performance appraisal on annual basis. And there is a considerable dissatisfaction. According to the literature or the previous researchers, we can see that in most of the organizations, the employees are not much happy or not much satisfied about the performance appraisal processes, right? So there is a certain considerable or a significant dissatisfaction among employees and even managers with this performance appraisal systems, right? Often managers, from the manager's perspective, they often describe as poor performing, right? Because managers are always demanding more contribution from their subordinates towards the organization. They are asking more performance, right? And annually, those performance level will be basically improved or increased. So as a result of that, most of the cases we observe that the managers describe as poor performance, unless outstanding performance are very limited, right? In most of the organizations, the survivors or the average performance are higher compared with the outstanding performance. So in the performance appraisal, always we would like to see some sort of outstanding performance, right? Who are going beyond the given level of performance standards, unless at least who are able to reach the minimum expected level of performance, right? Therefore, those things are some sort of concerns in line with the performance appraisal. In some of the organizations, you know that when the particular employees are unable to meet the expected level of performance, sometimes they are given a certain honorable exit, right? Honorable exit is given even for the managerial level as well as at operational level. We can say that such employees or the managers who are unable to meet the expected level of performance have to exit from those organizations. That's also there. And also to other side, we can say that in some of the organizations, somehow they survive. Even when they are unable to meet the expected level of performance, still they make sure the survival, right? Therefore, both of these things are there. As a result of that, we can say that much dissatisfaction about the performance appraisal processes in organization from different perspectives. Now, when we talk about managing performance, right? Managing performance goes beyond the annual performance appraisal rating, and it incorporates issues like employee goal setting or the formulation of performance goals, right? As well as coaching, and also having some sort of performance-based reward systems, right? Like the performance-based incentive plans, etc., right? And also individual developmental plans in terms of the career progression, right? Career advancement plans or further training and retraining also provided. And focuses on performance improvement rather than performance review. Therefore, managing performance goes beyond the performance appraisal. It always focuses in some sort of further improvement of performance, how to enhance that. And it will be added with further performance goal setting as well as coaching as well as rewards based on the performance, etc. And when we talk about the organizations may need to connect performance management and coaching to the business goals. You know that basically in the present day organizations, even HR practitioners are considered as the strategic partners. But in the good old days, you know that in most of the cases, HR practitioners were not taken certain, right? They were considered as the personnel who are having the advisory power or the staff authority, right? It was not basically coming under the line functions. Therefore, as a result of that, in the traditional organizations, line managers are dominating, right? Especially in the production, marketing, finance lines, right? So they are dominating while the HR personnel are giving a certain supportive service, right? So they may have the staff authority. So that is the traditional interpretation. But in the contemporary organizations, you know that especially the SHR, strategic human resource management, is now increasingly becoming a strategic subject, right? Strategic subject, which is directly connected with the business strategy. Therefore, HR practitioners also want to make that strategic input for the realization of corporate objectives in the organization. Therefore, organizations may need to connect performance management and coaching to the business goals or the business aspirations, as well as the corporate objectives and strategies of the organization, because it is ultimately related with the organizational performance. We know that performance is basically at 3 layers, mainly at the organizational level, then at the departmental or strategic business unit level, then at the individual level. Individual level performance is the job performance, right? At the individual level. Then it influences on the departmental or the strategic business unit level. Then ultimately it is influencing on the overall organizational level performance. Therefore, it should be linked with that in terms of the profitability, as well as business expansions and other growth plans of the organization. Now, when we further look at about this coaching area in line with the managing performance, right? For what managers are paid, as you perceive, right? Becoming the managers, right? As the managers, for what managers are paid in the organizations. Any suggestion? For what purpose managers are paid in the organization? For what managers are remunerated? How you perceive that? Any idea, Husiri or Kushani? How you understand this question? Just think about that. For what managers are remunerated?
To make profits.
For making profits. Okay. All the managers make profit? How to make profit?
In order to work efficiency and effectively.
Okay, in order to work efficiency as well as in order to work in effectively, right? Okay, for working efficiently and effectively, managers are paid. Any other views? Any other views? Yeah, this is a good question that we want to think. For what managers are paid? Are managers paid for what they do? For what they do? Or are managers truly paid for what their subordinates do? How do you think about that? Are managers paid for what they do?
Good evening, sir. They are paid for as well as for their performance and the subordinates' performance both, sir.
Okay, very good, right? Truly, managers are paid for both what managers are doing as well as for what subordinates are doing. Mostly for what managers are paid. Mostly for what? What managers are truly doing? What is the role of a manager? We know that basically managers are the designated executive or the officerial figures who are supposed to oversee the work of assistant staff and get done work to achieve the organizational aspirations. So they are the managers. So managers are designated authority figures at officer or the executive level. So they are supposed to get done the work from their assistant staff. For what? To achieve or realize the organizational aspirations. Isn't it? In terms of production, marketing, right? Or any other finance related, or any other operational or admin, right? Whatever. Therefore, managers are the first persons. The first persons. Managers are the key personnel at different departments, right? Or the divisions, or at different levels. What they mostly do is oversee the work of their subordinates, of their assistant staff. If the subordinates are not performing well, if the subordinates are unable to meet the expected standards of performance, who should be accountable? Who should be accountable? Who are answerable? Who are answerable? Higher management will question from whom? Will the higher management directly call the respective employee and question about their performance gaps? No.
No, sir.
No.
No.
What happened? Truly, higher management will question from the respective officers, managers, or the executives. Isn't it? Therefore, these managers are ultimately answerable. Managers are accountable. So this reality or this organizational reality needs to be clearly understood. Therefore, for what managers are remunerated is an interesting question where we want to address truly, right? And want to clear answers for that, right? Managers are not paid for what they do, but what their subordinates do. By managing performance by ensuring that employees know especially what to do in terms of assigning the respective workloads, assigning work, in terms of describing the jobs of each job holder. Managers are the people who determine the set of tasks, duties, and responsibilities that need to be performed by each job holder in their respective positions. So that's what basically comes as the job description. Who managers need to profile the jobs of others and determine the job profile. Therefore, employees know specifically what to do. Is basically should be guided by the managers. Can truly do it and do not face hurdles or problems to maximize performance. So managers are supposed to create a certain pleasing work atmosphere. No disturbances, no hurdles. The required resources should be allocated in terms of the resource allocation. As Henry Mintzberg clearly said that. Managers are the people who are supposed to allocate resources on a priority basis, not based on personal favorations, not based on personal relationships. So based on the organizational priorities, managers are supposed to reasonably allocate the limited resources among different job holders. They should be able to work in a certain disturbance-free, hurdle-free working environment with the minimum job pressure. So that's why managers should concern about the grievances of employees and create a certain grievance-free or stress-free, pleasing working environment. It should be a certain encouraging working atmosphere where employees feel to be committed, hard work, and deliver a high output, unless they have the freedom to say goodbye to the respective organization and exit for better perks to any other organization. Therefore, the challenge of managers is retaining them. Once they attracted and developed, there's a challenge to retain. Employee retention is a big challenge. Nowadays, you experience that, especially in the previous 2 years, right? We experience in all the sectors in Sri Lanka, even in the university academic, even in SLAs, even in banking, right? Or financial sector, right? Even today in the morning, I was in a discussion at IBSL, so Bankers of Sri Lanka, how leading banks have been faced for this, right? Now we are preparing mid-career professionals in the bank to take up future challenges as the managers. Therefore, it is truly a big challenge. And therefore, we want to understand that managers are paid not for what they do, but what their subordinates do. By managing performance, by ensuring that employees know specifically what to do in terms of profiling jobs, right? Can truly do it, whether there's a true fit between the particular job and the set of skills and the mindset. If there is a real fit or matching between the job and the skill set and the mindset, then the people will work well. If there's no proper fit, then it will lead for dissatisfaction, unless it will lead for staff lobotomy, not for the staff development, right? Staff lobotomy. Staff will be blunted, right? When it is assigned a certain workload where they are unable to perform without proper guidance and training. Therefore, managers want to make sure these things. Therefore, you may understand that managers' role is basically facilitating, convening, serving other people, right? Provide that facilitation in terms of communication, leadership, motivation, resource allocation, even conflict handling. Managers should be keen in conflict handling. And they should be always able to inculcate a harmonious work environment, right? Good connectivity or attachment among the staff members with a strong team spirit. So for that purpose, the managers are truly responsible. That's how managers should provide the leadership to maximize the performance of the subordinates. That's why we need the managers. So we need managers to provide that leadership. Therefore, you may understand that managers are safe as long as their subordinates are able to meet high levels of performance. Or when the subordinates are able to meet the at least satisfactory level of performance, the managers would be safe. When the subordinates are unable to meet that, at least the minimum expected level of performance, managers are not safe. They have to curtail their tenure. They will not be able to comfortably survive in those organizations. They will not be able to secure their job in long run. Therefore, you may understand, right, the role of manager, right, and for what managers truly paid, especially the people who are presently managing, others who are managing performance, and the potential managers need to understand that true expectation of managers by an organization at all the levels, right? So managers and supervisors may need to be coaches. So that's why they want to be coaches. They should be able to guide, direct, motivate, encourage, inspire, and psychologically energize people to be hard worked. So the managers should be really the sources of inspiration, even from the words that they spell out. They should be able to give a certain energy to other people to maximize their potential. There should be some sort of moral boosting ways to address their staff and guide them. That's what basically the staff and the owners of the organization expect from the managers. Who are the owners? Owners are the shareholders. Owners are the shareholders. Shareholders are the principals. Managers are the agents. Therefore, managers are performing an agency role to give high profits, to develop the organizational value, to expand the market share of the organization, and to go for growth plans to the organization, to go for business or investment diversifications. So these are the expectations of the shareholders or the owners. For that purpose, the managers being the agents want to perform that agency role and fulfill that. Therefore, managers and supervisors may need to be coaches, guides, instructors. We will come to coaching later in detail, rather than controllers in managing performance. But whatever managers practically truly interested, they like to control others. They mostly talk about controlling. They think that controlling is all about dealing with their staff members, want to strictly control them. Or people love to control others. But rather than that, the managers need to be truly coaches. The role of a coach would be different from the role of a controller. We will see that. Controlling is basically based on well-defined guidelines, rules, regulations, procedures, and other regulatory frameworks. So based on that, we may try to regulate people, control, according to our interest, our wish. But coaching is something else. That is psychologically energizing people to perform at an outstanding level. Therefore, managers are supposed to be good coaches rather than controllers in managing performance. Therefore, coaching provides effective management of employee performance and can assist in meeting objectives. Therefore, coaches provide that help, assistance. So coaching creates a certain partnership and can be used to improve performance and ensure continued effective performance. This is what basically we need. That's why I said that earlier at the beginning. Always the managers are asking more shareholders or the principals are asking more. They are asking more performance. If you achieve a certain level, in the next time, raise the bar. In terms of the market share, or in terms of the sales, turnover, or the total revenue, right? Or in terms of the profit after tax, or in terms of the profit before tax, under whatever performance indicator, always the shareholders or the owners are asking more. They will come as the directives of the board of directors. Then they will come down. So managers give that. Managers want to deliver that. Right? It's a challenge. It's a challenge because managers try to say that there's a certain limit we can deliver. How we go beyond that? That is the real pressure that managers have to take. So however, we want to understand that always the principles of the organizations expecting continuous improvement of performance. Continuous improvement. Right? Not trying to be in the same level. They expect a certain continuous growth. So when they expect a certain continuous growth, the managers want to deliver that. For that purpose, coaching will be an effective tool. Effective tool. That's what basically we are focusing on coaching, to manage performance, or for the improvement of performance. So coaching provides effective management of employee performance and can assist in meeting objectives. So coaching creates a certain partnership and can be used to improve performance and ensure continued effective performance. And the fundamentals of participative management approach has its base in coaching. If we take about the participatory management approaches like MBO, etc., right? Management by objectives, you may have heard unless read, right? Or you may be in a certain tactical field, right? Touching on those areas. So they are interconnected. The fundamentals of participative management approach has its base in coaching and is increasingly used in employee empowerment. So from the coaching, what we expect is psychologically energizing the coachee, or we want to empower. Once someone is empowered, he or she may feel autonomous, will be enriched, will feel more comfortable and strong, and also will have a certain control within him or herself, with a certain self-regulation under the guidance of coach. Therefore, that's what basically required. Therefore, basically, coaching is used again as an effective tool for the employee empowerment. And that employee empowerment will influence positively on maximization of their performance. What we expect is to see that continuous increase of performance, or the continuous maximization of performance. Right. So you may understand the background of coaching and how it can be used as an effective tool for maximization of performance. Further, right, if we take about coaching. So what is coaching? Right? Basically, performance improvement technique, as I said. So whole purpose or the utmost intention of coaching is becoming successful, becoming high ranking, becoming winners, becoming successors, becoming medalists, becoming outstanding, becoming exceptionally high performing. So these are the expectations of coaching. So coaches are trying to do that. Coaches are trying to make always the coachee a winner, a high successor. Coach is always trying to make the unable people able. Coach is always trying to transform the able people capable. Coach is always committed to transform the capable people as outstanding personnel or the excellent personnel in the particular field. This is what basically coaching do. Therefore, coaching is always a performance improvement technique. That is the utmost intention, nothing else. Even in the sports, you know that, simply. This is what basically we do even under management coaching. Same thing, right? So coaching is a face-to-face discussion. It should be a good rapport, good understanding, good relationship, right? Face-to-face discussion between manager and the subordinate or group of subordinates to stop undesirable behavior. There's a certain part of unlearning also. They may have some sort of bad habits, bad practices, undesirable ways of handling things, some sort of negative attributes which may block or influence as a hurdle for high performance, bad practices. So those bad attributes, negative attributes needs to be avoided. Therefore, want to drop some sort of undesirable behaviors, drop in them, unlearn them. So subordinates stop undesirable behavior and begin desirable behavior. What are the new things need to be absorbed? New skills need to be acquired. Some of the areas where further need to be polished will be basically addressed. So undesirable behavior to enhance performance. And also coaching is a certain mutual conversation, strong understanding between the two personnel in terms of the coach and the coachee. So mutual conversation that follows a predictable process and leads to superior performance. Therefore, ultimate expectation is having that superior performance or outstanding performance. And based on that, we'll be able to understand the insights of the particular person, hidden talents of the particular person. And coach will strategize to capitalize those hidden talents or to get some sort of hidden talents out and encourage to capitalize them. And from that, he or she will be a successor. That's what basically coach is doing. Coach is very keen to see some sort of unseen things of the personnel, where other people are unable to understand, but coaches are able to understand that, some sort of hidden talents, which may influence on superior performance to brush up them further. Superior performance, commitment to sustain improvement and positive relationship. This is what basically coaches are doing under coaching. And also it has been linked to sports coaches, as I said, as characteristics like optimism, right? To be optimistic, right? And a strong sense of moral values, having high moral, right? As well as honesty, right? Being principled or integrity, not to go for some sort of bad practices, even in the sports, you know that, violations of discipline. Ultimately, some of the players are getting penalized, right? So should maintain that integrity, right? Or the honesty, as well as humility and the warmth, as well as self-confidence and also trustworthiness should be present in both. The coach also should be able to exemplarily reflect that, and it will be absorbed by the coachee and will perform accordingly. Further, coaching is a broad approach for managing performance and a specific technique to facilitate it through roles like educating. So coaches may educate, make aware, open up the mind, trying to show some sort of unseen things to the people through opening up their eyes about the world, about the different scenarios, etc. So like educating, teaching or instructing, right, or guiding through some sort of facilitating or convening, and sponsoring through mentoring, being a certain specialist or being an expert or being mastered in a respective field, will try to share his or her own experience. We'll try to share some sort of success stories, and also will guide with some sort of best practices that he or she used in his career. So that is the role of a mentor. Mentors are mostly seniors. They are some sort of high performers in the past performance records. Unless some sort of specialist, unless some sort of senior figures who are mastered in a certain field, being achievers, Therefore, they are able to truly share their experience with the coachee. And also counseling. Counseling, right? Counseling is dealing with some sort of personal problems, dealing with some sort of stresses, dealing with some sort of hurdles, dealing with some sort of uncomforts, psychological uncomforts, dealing with some sort of sad areas in the cloudy mind. Therefore, the coach should be able to listen well, absorb all those worries like a sponge, and being relaxing and helping to come up with own solutions. Therefore, should have that counseling skill also, like handling grievances and providing some sort of satisfactory solutions to make the particular person peaceful. Therefore, in counseling, always we are trying to create that peace of mind. Peace of mind. Peace of mind is essentially required to concentrate or to be mindful. Then only will be able to maintain that focus and continuity. Therefore, if someone is required to maintain or sustain performance, they should get that peace of mind. So coach is providing or helping for that, dealing with personal problems, workplace problems, any other pressures, social pressures, etc. And confronting, facing up to performance problems. If there are certain barriers, if there are certain hurdles where it is unable to meet high performance levels, so the coach will identify those gaps and coach will guide to find the solutions to bridge the gap. Coaches are the people who are planning to bridge the gaps. Therefore, that's what basically coaches are doing. That's what basically coaching consists. Therefore, if someone wishes to be a coach, he or she should attain these kind of attributes, these kind of qualities, these kind of skills. When you select a coach for your organization to provide the coaching to your staff, hiring a coach, you want to see these attributes in his or her profile. Because there are certain requirements where we need to hire coaches. Select a good coach, because coaching is a high-paid work, high-paid job. For peanuts, good coaches are not coming. They will charge very high coaching fee or as consultancy fee. Therefore, to hire such people, we also want to have a proper selection process, not based on personal favorations. We want to select the right coach. Only right coach will provide the right directions, guidance, and the coaching, where we are able to transform our organizations as high-performing organizations. Right. So you make clear again further about that coaching and its background. And further, coaching is a process used to encourage employees to accept responsibility. Because there are some of the people who are reluctant to accept responsibilities. So we want to give responsibilities to accept them willingly. For that purpose, the coach can encourage them, motivate them, give a certain injection to their mind to create a certain pleasure about the particular task and the responsibility, and showing some sort of returns, what they can get. So giving a certain goal for them about what would be the return if you perform these responsibilities well. So from that, the coach is always trying to create that pleasing mentality and encouraging people for their own performance. Because once someone is responsible, he or she should take the responsibility about that performance. Should hard work as players practice continuously, right, to have high performance, right? Practice will not be stopped, right? It has to continue, right? So like that, always the employee should take the responsibility for his or her own performance, should be truly assertive, right? So the coaches are able to make other people assertive, to take self-responsibility. For example, the employee should be responsible his or her performance. Although others are given the facilities or not, although others are paid well or not, although others are encouraged or not, right? The person should have a certain responsibility to have high performance. Right, okay? So to enable them to achieve and sustain superior performance, and to treat them as partners in working towards organizational goals and effectiveness. Therefore, always the coach is supposed to basically make the people more responsible. And this is done by coaching analysis and coaching discussion. Therefore, coach has to facilitate for that. The coaching analysis should be done, and based on the coaching analysis, we'll have a certain discussion. At the particular discussion level, the coach has to plan it. Will the contributions or the inputs of coachee? Right. So you may be clear about the background of coaching as well as the role of a coach in general. We are further going to details. Now we are coming to a small activity. This is a self-assessment activity. Self-assessment activity. Right? Get a screenshot. And let's take it down. So what you want to do, you want to compare and contrast the practices of counseling, mentoring, and coaching. As your experience suggests, which one is the most effective practice in terms of improving performance? Justify your position, citing appropriate examples from your own work life. Okay, so that is the self-assessment activity. So what you want to do? You want to compare and contrast the practices of counseling, mentoring, and coaching. You may have some sort of experience. Now, in general, I explained about coaching as well as mentoring, right? A certain expert, a specialist, senior personnel who is guiding and directing, sharing experience is basically mentoring, and counseling, dealing with personal pressures, right? And focusing on peace of mind. I said that, right? So how those three are influencing on performance. So as your experience suggests, which one is the most effective practice in terms of improving performance? And you want to justify your position, citing appropriate examples from your own work life. Okay? Clear? Kushani, Senani? Can you hear me? Shriyanti, Ishara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Okay. Okay. Take around 10 minutes and be prepared for this. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Feel free to ask any question, please, right? If you are finished, please tell me, then we can start the discussion. Shehan, Wakista, Beksha, Ishara, Sriyanti.
So I think mentoring is most effective.
Okay, good. I'll give you a chance to talk once others also got ready. But to justify your position, on what basis you say that mentoring is the best practice for improving performance? Be prepared to justify that. Justifying is basically proving your argument. You want to prove your argument. To prove the argument, you need some proofs. Proofs are the evidences, some sort of reliable facts. Therefore, support your argument with some sort of supportive facts.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
In my perspective, I think mentoring and coaching is the most effective practice than counseling, and two things are highly needed. But the mentoring and coaching are highly needed because counseling is needed to particular time or if need arises. But the mentoring and coaching is a continuing process. So if we follow this one, apply this one, that will be more effective because mentoring and coaching will guide a person continually. That's why we can say it's most effective practice than counseling.
Okay, good. Good, Jibram. Right. So what Jibram says that basically mentoring and coaching are the most effective practices for the improvement of performance. Right. Good effort, good argument. We'll see the ideas of others also. Then we will try to build consensus. We'll come to an agreeable point. Right. Others? Senani?
The mentoring, in my view, so mentoring, counseling, and coaching, both all three should be there in balanced ways. Because sometimes they need the mentoring, and sometimes in such situations they mean some situations they may need the counseling part also, and sometimes we have to coach them, and the all three should be there in. I mean in different capacities, different degrees.
Okay, good, right? So combination of all three, right, is required at different degrees. That is the point of Senani, right? So according to Senani, for the improvement of performance, all these three practices, right, are important, but it would be at different degrees. Good effort, Senani. Others?
And so I'm also agreed with that because
Ashan?
of yes, sir. I'm also agreed with that, sir, because we need to go with three. The balance, which means the counseling mostly address the past experience. So I think it's give some kind of emotional and mental issues. The solutions, I think so. So we need to get we need to correct by using counseling method and mentoring. We are moving to mentoring. It provides some guidance and advices like that. It's need the experience from someone. It means someone being expert or the person who are having the experience before. Likewise, and the coaching. It's like a teaching method. It's once we are moving to the military, yes, of course we need someone of something before done and need to give the correct guidance and teach the things like that. So we need the balanced combination of three of these elements.
Okay, good. So according to Hashan's military experience, the instructions, the instructor's guidance, right, is very much similar to coaching. Isn't it, Hashan? It's some sort
Yes,
of
sir.
teaching,
Yes, sir.
some sort of teaching or instructional process. Right, okay, good. So according to Hashan's view also, all three are important, right? Others' views?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mali.
What I feel is, sir, we have to use this counseling, mentoring, and coaching for each and every our subordinates according to their performance. Because while we are monitoring their performance, we feel like some are need counseling, more and more counseling, and some are need coaching. So some people are skillful, tactile, and they have trained well, but they need they need we need to we need them to guide with coaching. So some are like demotivated and not in good attitudes to work. So those people we have to get mentoring and get into our system. So these three are important accordance with their like characters and behavior in the organization.
Right, okay. So all three are important, but it depends on the requirements of the organization and the characteristics of the respective subordinate. Am I correct, Himali? That's what you're, Nimali?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right, okay, fine. All three are important, but it depends on the requirement of the organization and the characteristics of the respective subordinate. Okay, good. Good idea. Others views? Others views?
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, this is Taumian.
Yes, Tomian.
I also feel definitely in a team setup that these three are very important. But the question here is how to improve the performance. So I feel that coaching is an improving technique which is professionally practiced, and that gives solid empowerment to an individual and team to achieve the desired goals and objectives. So that might carry more weight, but definitely mentoring is more about sharing own personal experiences, achievements, so that can help also to the team. And counseling to deal with the emotional elements issues. Those three are very much required, but to specifically improve on the performance, constant coaching while addressing the need related to goals and objectives will do better. That's my take on it.
Okay, Tomian, thank you. Right, nice analysis. Right. So all three are important, but Tomian is in a clear view that in line with improving performance, coaching is more effective or more suitable. Right, okay, good. Right. Any other views? Other views? Others also can make some inputs. Who others? Yeah, Ishara or Upeksha? Vinu? Kularatna? Yeah. Others views? Right, okay. Right. Then we'll see. Right. So thank you so much, right, for adding your nice suggestions, right, as well as making comments, and also appreciate the analysis, right, the analysis that you did. Most important thing is, right, the Thomian, right, came to a nice point, right, nice point, right. So I will go, right, in line with that, Now, here in the question, you want to clearly see on what the question is focused on. Okay, as your experience suggests, which one is the most effective practice? Which one is the most effective practice in terms of improving performance? Okay, so that's what basically you want to focus on, right? Yes, right? All three are important, but you want to select the most effective practice. Only one, right? That is one thing. Another one thing is the most effective practice in terms of improving performance, right? So the expectation is having high performance, superior performance. So in line with that, what is the most effective technique? So that's what basically question is all about, right? Clearly understand that. At the examination also, you want to focus on the right question in right way, right? Because although the question is lengthy, although questions are descriptive, right? Although questions are given in elaborative essay type form, the key part of the question would be very short, very small, right? Therefore, you want to focus on that, right? Unless we are giving good answer to the wrong questions, right? So we want to give the right answer to the right question, right? As it is asked, right? Unless, as we have studied, we may give very nice answers for the questions which have not asked in the question paper, right? That is one of the experience that we go through when we are evaluating answer scripts, right? Some of the candidates have given very nice answers, really good answers, right? For some of the questions which we have not asked in the question paper. Okay, therefore always focus on, right, what it is asking. Right, we will see, right? My role is, right, moderating, right, or facilitating and bringing all of you to an agreeable point. Or my role is building consensus, right? Consensus, right? Therefore, we'll do that. So for that purpose, we will see one by one. Then we will come to the conclusion. Okay, right. Now counseling. We'll start from counseling. Counseling for what? As I said earlier also, usually counseling looks backward and the present. Right? Based on some sort of historical incidents, historical ups and downs, based on some sort of mental or psychological drawbacks, some sort of shocks, right? Where people have gone through, where they were unable to absorb that shock. As a result of that, facing some sort of psychological inconveniences. Counseling is needed in that ground when someone hasn't gone through some sort of psychological inconveniences. Like the vehicles, we also should have shock absorbers. We also should be able to absorb the shocks. But some of the people are unable to absorb those shocks coming from the environment, coming from the family, coming from the different social elements, coming from the workplace, different pressures, shocks will come, right? So we as the individual should be able to absorb all those shocks. In the absence of that, we want to seek the assistance of another party to find the peace of mind, because we have some sort of right, unbalanced situation, unfocused situation, right? Some sort of ambiguous, vague, unclear, cloudy mentality. So we want to be clear, right? So for that purpose, we want to seek the assistance of another party. That's how the counseling need arise. Always focusing on a certain psychological uncomfort, mental shock. Right. So as a result of that, usually counseling looks backward and the present. What happened? How it was happened? Right? What was the particular story? Giving an opportunity to go for details of that incident and trying to make the particular person relax. Because even sharing those worries with another party is some sort of ways of being relaxed, reducing that mental weight, trying to be relaxed. Therefore, it is required to see the backward, go to the particular incidents and given a certain chance, if it is required to worry it, let them. Some people are weeping. Some of the people are crying. Some of the people are blaming. Some of the people are looking at being shocked, doesn't talk. getting stuck, being in a different mood, right? So all those things are some sort of facial appearances, physical appearances of a person who is seeking some sort of psychological relief. Psychological relief. It would be based on some sort of family incidents with the immediate partner or any other relative or any other workplace job-related pressures or any other social pressures or due to esteem, prestige, and good wishes of the people may have some sort of uncomforts when they are unable to meet or made some sort of damages to their images that they have been built up and maintained. They will be embarrassed. They will be driven on some sort of psychological uncomforts. When they are telling those sad stories, someone need to be listening. Someone need to be listening. That's why the counselors need to be very empathetic. Empathetic. Should be able to look at from the particular counselee's perspective, from the worried party's perspective, and giving a certain opportunity to relax through sharing that story. Because some of the people feel comfortable when they set those sad stories with others. They are finding someone trusted to listen that. So counselor should be such a person, trusted person, who maintain privacy, who is able to absorb all those worries on behalf of another person. Therefore, when it looks backward, all those things need to be followed and experienced that. And want to think about the present, how to bring back to the normal mentality, how to bring back to the desirable mentality, how to restore the position before he was getting shocked. What should be the strategy to restore that, to reposition that person's mentality and focusing on that? What should be the ideal solution? Counselor will not give that solution. Counselor should empower, encourage, psychologically strengthen the particular person, the counselee, to come up with his or her own solution. That is the role of counselor. Counselors are not advisors. Counselors are not giving solutions. It's our own perspective. It's our own perspective. Counselors are not advisors. Counselors should not give solutions. Counselors should help the counselee to come up with solutions, to come up with a good plan. For that purpose, should help. That's why I want to listen. That's why I want to ask some sort of questions to open up the mind. That's why I should show some sort of perspectives to look at in this way. Why don't you think in this way? Why don't you look at in this way? So different angles, different points of view will be provided by the counselor. Counselor should be tricky for that, to make the particular counselee to think in different angles. Because most of the times counselees are badly psychologically affected. They look at only from one angle, one point of view. Because of that, it is badly affected. Their mind is cloudy. Therefore, they are unable to analyze from other perspectives. Counselor is there to do that. Therefore, counselors are always trying to get the solutions from the counselee to work out, plan the solutions. It's a hard process. It's a time-consuming process. Overnight, we'll not be able to do that. Many counseling sessions may need to be taken for that. Initial phase would be very difficult, but gradually we'll be able to store that and bring back to the particular person to the right track, to the right track. Therefore, for that purpose, the counselor should be able to strategically do that. So counselors need to such kind of counseling techniques. Counselors should have such kind of counseling skills for that purpose, right? It is always non-directive. Do not focus on one direction and give answers, solutions, work schedules, etc. Always try to get from the particular person and get in the agreement. Showing the pluses and minuses of each. Showing some sort of challenges if he or she is going in one way. What sort of challenges you may have to face when you are planning to do in that way. Right? So like that, the counselor should always help for that. And should help to come up with the right way, right method, right solution. Advices are not given, as I said earlier. Only suggestions are given. Ideas are generated. Different ways and means are explaining and trying to get the agreement from that particular person, the counseling. Not usually solutions focus. That is not the role of counselor. And tends to be enable the subordinate to understand emotions and their sources. I said that most of the times the counseling is basically emotional, shocked with some sort of pressures, highly driven on emotions. Their emotional intelligence is gone somewhere, not working. They don't have the self-awareness. They don't have the self-regulation. They are the key attributes of EI, emotional intelligence. When they are not having that self-awareness and self-regulation skill, they are unable to manage those emotions. That's why they are becoming emotional. So want to find the source for that. Why? It would be a death of someone, detachment of a loving party, separation, right? Losing the job, assigning an undesirable workload or uncapable workload, assigning to a certain undesirable work team, giving some sort of punishment transfer. Whatever. It depends. It depends on the particular situation. So it tends to enable the subordinate to understand emotions and their source and believe that subordinate can find a good answer to the issue. So always the counselor should be in a strong belief that the counselee is able to come up with a good solution. He or she has that skill. It has gone somewhere for a while due to some reasons. Still don't know what the reason is. So the counselor should help to identify that. What is the source of that? And want to explain the reality. If it is a detachment, people will not be attached forever. Detachment comes. Separation comes. Death is assured. So the social reality needs to be explained, should be well understood. Making it understandable is the real challenge when they are in a shocked mentality. So that's why the counselor should be taken a continuing effort. That's why counseling sessions are required. Not only 1, 2, 3, but sometimes more than that. It depends on the gravity of the particular case that we are handling. Therefore, believe that subordinate can find a good answer to the issue and initially may promote a degree of dependence. At the initial phase, as a counselor, when you listen to the worries or the sad stories of counseling will feel you like a god, showing high dependence over you. But that is not our job. We don't want to continue the counseling as a dependent on us. Our role is making them independent, autonomous, self-functioning, making more confident, without becoming a dependent person. Therefore, initially may promote a degree of dependence, then independence in long run, based on the counseling effort taken, and may use the skills of empathizing. I earlier also used that word, should be able to empathize. Counselors need to be empathetic, not sympathetic. We don't want to sympathize. Counseling does not expect our sympathy. That is not what they expect. They expect the empathy, empathetic listening. We want to feel that it has happened to us. In such a way, we want to listen. In such a way, we want to have our expressions, facial and oral expressions. Then only the counselee will feel to continue the particular talk and release everything. If not, counselee will not have a trust and will tell only half. I have faced that at the initial phase as a counselor. I was trained as a counselor under Chief Psychiatrist Dr. Neil Fernando. Dr. Neil Fernando. I practiced at Angoda Mental Hospital as well as Valikada Prison. Valikada Prison. I remember that at the initial phase, Dr. Neil Fernando told me that you are like a policeman. That is not the way of questioning. That is not the way of questioning. You want to be very empathetic, be very friendly, try to win their hearts and minds. Right? If they feel that counselor is like a policeman and questioning, then they will be fear. They will be fear. They will not disclose all those things. Therefore, we want to show that, and we want to win their hearts and minds. Therefore, we want to change our style, transform some sort of skills or acquire new skills for that purpose. Then only they will tell little by little all those stories. I handle many cases. Especially some of the cases where are psychologically affected and being jailed and referred to the mental hospital. So we wanted to give reports to the court. I had to handle such kind of cases. It was a nice experience. My job is not a counselor, but we as the HR practitioners need to have some sort of counseling skills. You as the HR practitioners, you as the people who are going to be mastered in the human resource management, need to possess some sort of counseling skills. You as the personnel who are leading and providing leadership to different departments, sections, units, branches, right, etc. You need that skill. Counseling skill is required. It's a different art of working with people. Therefore, initially may promote a certain degree of dependence, then independence, as well as may use skills of empathizing, as well as questioning, right? Should question some sort of open questions, not as the double-barreled questions. Should be very open, clear, short questions in an understandable way, where they are able to give a clear answer or a response without touching their privacy, without arising their emotions. That area should not be touched. So we want to be very careful when we are questioning, without hurting their hearts, without arising their emotions, without going to the privacy, personal life of people, especially in some of the family pressurized cases. Should be very careful. Even in the job stress associated with some sort of sexual harassments at the workplace, abusing, workplace bullying. There are cases where people are badly affected and pressurized, so they need some assistance. We want to learn these counseling skills as the HR personnel to help them, not to send them to other external paid counselor. When they are facing some sort of pressures, if managers are always sending them to the counseling unit, then the particular employees will be embarrassed. In our culture, even sending to a counseling unit is not a good thing, as people perceive. Right? Because people will ask whether that person has gone wrong, whether that person has gone some sort of upset. Right? So like that, the social perception is different in counseling. Still, we have not developed such culture. Therefore, we want to understand that. Therefore, our managers need counseling skills to deal with such kind of psychologically affected people. If it is required some sort of further professional psychological counseling, then we may refer. If it is required further medical treatments, then it would be referred. But at the initial phase, our managers should be able to deal with those things. They should possess these counseling skills. In the absence of that, how to do? How to do that? Because that workplace concentration is very important. That mindfulness is very important to ensure focus of employees on performance targets. We can't do that. Therefore, the managers should be able to do that. So should be able to carefully question, as well as should be able to clarify, simplify, should be able to reflect, and should be able to observe based on the way that they are talking, explaining things, etc. So should be able to get some sort of insights through the observations based on the behavior, whether it is a normal behavioral pattern, whether it is a certain abnormal behavioral pattern. So should have a certain third eye to the managers to understand those things in terms of practicing this. Therefore, you may understand now, counseling is not directly focusing on performance. Counseling is mostly focusing on restoring peace of mind, giving a certain relief to the psychological pressures, tensions, stresses, and bringing back to the particular affected parties to the right mentality. That's what basically we are focusing from counseling. Here what we are referring and learning is not to be professional counselors. What I said is basically, as a manager, we want to have these basic counseling skills. Because increasingly our staff, our subordinates are getting psychologically affected due to different pressures, due to financial market ups and downs, right? The failure of the governance of a country, where people are facing economic pressures, where people are unable to meet their needs and wants. When the pay packet is over within 1 week, people are driven on debts. So many online loans. People are driven seriously on credit cards. You get the data from the central bank, right? And get the statistics. What is the total outstanding of credit card holders in Sri Lanka to 31st of July? You will not believe those figures. Our people just pay the minimum balance and the big amount continue with high finance charges. They are going for a trap, like our country went on debt trap. Our employees are going on these credit card traps. Some of the people do not understand how to pay that. They are very happy through seeing that, oh, we have to pay only this minimum payment. That is only 5% from the total outstanding. 5%. If the total outstanding is 100,000, minimum payment is 5,000 plus. So they pay that 95,000 continue and be adding interest. So that is a simple example. And other online loans, workplace harassments, lots of pressures are to our people. Therefore, we as the managers should have some sort of basic counseling skills to listen to them and to provide some sort of solutions, satisfactory ways to get from their ideas and open up their mind, explain all those things, showing the seriousness of those things, and how to manage a credit card in an appropriate way to bridge the gaps of that their knowledge, address the knowledge gaps, and try to fill that. This is what basically managers want to do as leaders. So when you feel that you are a leader, you will get those skills. You will acquire those skills. Therefore, you may understand that all those things are basically focusing on restoring peace of mind. Peace of mind, right? Not directly focusing on maximizing or improving performance as asked in the question that we are addressing. Right, then we'll go to mentoring. Before going to mentoring, we'll have a short break. The time is 7:32. We'll take around 10-15 minutes, right? And after that, we will continue. Is it good, Tomian, Hashan, Nimali?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Then
Yes.
fine. We'll have a short break. Now the time is 7:32. We'll come back at 7:45. Okay. Okay. Ready? Did all join back? Senani, Tomian, Hashan, Rusiri.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about others? Vinu, Chaturika, Pushpakumara. Gibran.
Yes, I'm here.
Right, okay, good. Others? Ishara, Wakister, are you all right?
I'm here, sir.
Right, fine.
I'm here, sir.
Okay, then we'll start. Right, now we'll see mentoring. Now, counseling we discussed. Now we'll see mentoring. So you know that mentoring, right? Simply can understand that. Basically, mentors are experts. Mentors have a wealth of knowledge and experience, right? They have a rich experience, right? And they would be expertised in a certain field or a certain subject, right? Or would be mastered in a certain task, right? Or would be highly skilled in the art of doing some work, right? They may have the know-how, right? Know-how, not only the theoretical knowledge, but the applied knowledge also, right? They have know-how. Therefore, always the mentors are some sort of experts, right? Added with some sort of wealth of experiences, right? Would be highly senior, mostly would be senior, right? Appropriately compared with the subordinate, always mentor would be a successor in simple sense, right? Mentor essentially needs to be a successor, right? Compared with the subordinate, right? Should be able to give some sort of suggestions, guidance, directions, advices. That is very much important, right? Because mentors are advising, giving directives, right? Directives, giving some sort of solutions, right? That is basically some sort of solution-focused relationship, right? Especially in your education, you want to have a mentor, right? That is very much important, as well as in your career progression, right? You may have a certain mentor, sometimes your dad, right? Or your mom, or one of your teacher, right? Or one of workplace senior person, right? Would be a mentor, all right? Would be a mentor. Someone who is higher to the particular subordinate, right? So mentor has expert knowledge or wealth of experiences as well as specific advice and directions are given by the mentors, right? And mainly it is focused on solutions, right? As well as mentor has real answers for the issues addressed because of that wealth of experiences. And also mentor believe that subordinate or trainee can learn, right? Trainee can learn, right? They have that potential for learning, right? And also mentor generally commits to a long-term development, however, can focus to specific actions or issues also. It depends on the requirement, right? Mentoring relationship may have some sort of long-term sustainable relationship as well as will focus on a certain current issue, right? And after resolving that, sometimes the mentoring relationship will be over. It depends on the requirement. One of the negative aspect of mentoring is, right? Mentoring relationship may lead to a degree of dependence, right? Because it is like in the apprentice system, right? Instructor and pupil relationship, right? Teacher and pupil, right? Or trainer and trainee relationship like that. Therefore, in the mentoring sometime, some of the subordinates are acquiring even some sort of undesirable things, right? Therefore may have a certain dependence, because always the mentor expect respect, right? That is the nature of mentoring relationship. Mentor expect respect from the particular trainee or the subordinate. As a result of that, mentor will always expect from the particular subordinate or trainee to follow his or her guidance, right? Not to deviate from that. Mentors usually don't like to see that the subordinate or the trainee is deviating from his directions, right? That is the nature of mentoring relationship, right? Therefore, as a result of that, may lead to a degree of dependence. It is not good. It is not good, right? Usually, for a certain subordinate or a trainee, it is believed to have a good progression, right? To have a high growth, right? The trainee or the subordinate should be able to develop independently. Simple example, if you take about a big tree, if a small plant is trying to be grow under a big tree, that small plant cannot be a massive tree. Therefore, from the HRD, what we expect is to have some sort of giant corporate executives, right? Some sort of outstanding figures, right? Therefore, to produce outstanding figures or exceptional leaders for the organizations, we always believe that they should be able to develop or grow up independently. Therefore, we want to make them independent. We want to make them autonomous or self-functioning, right? From our side, what we need is only giving that energy or the empowerment and let them grow, right? That's what basically we assume in HRD. It's like a simple example where when a small plant is trying to be grow under a big tree, that small plant cannot be a massive tree, right? If the particular small plant is planted somewhere having good space, right, it has the potential to grow up as a massive tree. So that's what basically we expect. Therefore, under the mentoring relationship also, that is such kind of similar situation, right? Therefore, may lead to a degree of dependence. And especially in mentoring also uses the skills like previously, some sort of questioning, as well as clarifying, as well as reflecting, observing, and giving feedback. All those things will be, right, in the particular mentoring process, right? But mostly that mentoring relationship is solution or the answer focused. Solutions or answer focused. Always trying to find the answers for the puzzles or problems. Always, as well as trying to give some sort of solutions or remedies for the issues, right? And also it may come as an advisory form. It's like a to-do list, right? Specifying you do these things, follow these steps, and you will be able to be successful, right? Because mentor is a senior, he or she is always trying to advise. Therefore, that relationship is in the form of advisory. Therefore, you may understand that, right? Therefore, it will not be in long-term performance focused, right? It will mainly address on some sort of puzzles, issues, gaps, short-term problems, but there is a room to even sustain that relationship in long run. It depends. Okay. Now you can understand what is mentoring and its purpose also. Now we'll see the next one. What is the next one? That is coaching. Right? There are the three things that we discuss, right? Trying to compare and contrast, right? Now, coaching is a skill of helping and guiding based on experience or mastered skill focusing future time frames. Today, we'll start the discussion to be successful at the end of another 3 years or 2 years or with the 5-year plan, right? So like that, always will have a certain well-defined future time frames. Based on well-defined future time frames, the coach is trying to prepare the coachee to come to the expected level of success. in terms of high performance, right? Therefore, that is in general a long-term relationship. It is future focused, right? And it is totally driven on high performance. The utmost intention is having a certain higher level of performance, to be an achiever or to be the best, like that, right? And it is non-directive and non-judgmental, right? Making the particular persons free to think, come up with nice ideas, solutions, arguments, plans. The coach will help to moderate, right? And come up with some sort of agreements, understanding, right? And based on that will be worked on, right? Therefore, it is non-directive and non-judgmental, right? Good coaches are not going for prompt judgments, quick judgments, right? They will carefully study. They will carefully observe how things are happening, how things are going on, right? What are the patterns? What are the styles? What are the pluses? What are the minuses? What are the hidden things, right? Still didn't identify. How can they get out, right? So like that, always it is non-directive and non-judgmental, and focus on solutions and success. Right? So if there are certain gaps, if there are certain issues, address them and come up with satisfactory solutions, and based on that, focus in high success. So believe that coaches has the ability to find an answer and enhance capacity. Coaches are always trying to have some sort of capacity building, right? So their purpose is strengthening the particular persons, right? So for that purpose, right, in general, right, overall capacity building may try to be done, right? And focus on coach's strengths. That is very much important. Always the coach is trying to identify some sort of talents, some sort of strengths, and trying to capitalize those strengths, trying to capitalize those hidden talents. That's what basically focusing on. And advices could be given as an instructional form. Right? They would be advisors, but not as an advisor, but in the form of instruction. You know that with advisors, leadership doesn't come, but with instructions, leadership comes. That's why there is a leadership style as even instructional leadership, right? Instructional leadership. Now we know that there are so many leadership styles, as our general knowledge suggests: autocratic, right, as well as democratic, as well as transactional, transformational, visionary, laissez-faire, as well as charismatic, right? As well as if we take about entrepreneurial, right? Entrepreneurial. And nowadays we talk about sustainable leadership, right? Sustainable leadership. And also we talk about ethical leadership style, right? Right? Among all those things, there is, and even spiritual leadership, right? Among all those things, there is instructional leadership also. To the classrooms, to the lecture halls, to the universities, to the educational and professional institutions, to the training sessions, right? For the guiding sessions, we need to have that instructional leadership style. Therefore, coaches, right, may give some sort of advices, but they are in the form of instructions, right? Instructions, right? And commits the coachee to specific action, right? In terms of identifying a certain shot, right? Or identifying in a certain skill, right? And focusing on that. I'm trying to be mastered on that. So like that, always it is specifying a certain action, a certain task, or a certain field, like that, right? Commits the coachee to specific action and enables the coachee to evaluate his or her progress, right? So the coachee himself or herself will be able to evaluate his or her success, right? Rather than depending on the guidance or the assessments of other external parties, right? Based on the continuous effort and the growth plans, the coachee himself or herself will evaluate the progress and will get a certain understanding where I stand today compared with yesterday, and where I should be stand tomorrow compared with today. Right? Therefore, always the coach is guiding and strengthening the coachee to be better off tomorrow than today. Right? To be better off tomorrow than today. That is the focus. That is the focus. Therefore, in that context, you may understand that always the coach is focusing on performance. Performance, right? Enables the coach to evaluate his or her progress. And then, right, in coaching promotes a high degree of independence. Never encourage dependence. Never encourage, right? If a manager who is having coaching skills, managers never assume that their high-performing subordinates are threats for them. But you know that in practice, in some of the organizations, right, some of the managers assume and be fearful to their subordinates when they are high-performing, right? And driven on professional jealousy and creating some barriers, right? Some sort of harassment, so many things, right? In the workplace, researchers, we find that, right? How some sort of supervisory people or some sort of managerial personnel, right, put different kind of barriers to the high-performing subordinates, right? Trying to kill their future. That is not the way of good coaches, right? The managers who are in coaching skills always trying to form their subordinates independent and stronger. They believe that their success depends on how they produce future leaders. Therefore, they have always some sort of upgrading strategy, right? Pushing up. Do not try to pull down, right? So always they are trying to get people up. They will be happy when they are able to produce successes for their organization, right? That's how managers who are having coaching skills perceive, right? Therefore promotes a high degree of independence and uses the skills of questioning, clarifying, reflecting, observing, monitoring, advising, motivating, inspiring, and giving feedback. Now, compared with counseling and mentoring, you can see that that process is longer. That process is more longer. Right? It consists so many management elements. Right? Not only just questioning, clarifying, reflecting, observing, but it will monitor. Right? It will give some sort of advising in the form of instruction. It will always energize or encouraging in terms of motivation and inspiring. It will bring some sort of success stories and share with others and try to inject some energy, right? As well as giving a regular constructive feedback, right? The negative aspects will be shown, positive aspects will be highlighted and encouraged to continue. For the negative aspects, we'll give some sort of suggestions to eliminate them, right? But we'll be more focused on talents and the strengths. And they will try to be capitalized, and from that, they are trying to make it successful as the high performance. So you can say that. Therefore, why coaching is important, right? Because of these things, ultimately, you may understand that coaching is more important than the counseling as well as mentoring, because it is highly performing, highly focusing on performance. So why coaching is important? Trainers will transfer only 5% of a new skill using only theory. Trainers will transfer only 10% of new skill using theory and demonstration. Trainers will transfer only 20% of a new skill using theory, demonstration, and practice within the training. And trainers will transfer only 25% of new skill using theory, demonstration, practice, and feedback. These are not my statements. This is what basically some sort of researchers suggest, right? And trainers will transfer 90% of a new skill using theory, demonstration, practice, feedback, and coaching support. So that's why managers want to have that training skill, counseling skill, mentoring skill, more than that, or on the top of them, coaching skills, right? With that coaching support, they will be able to transfer 90% of new skill. right, which focusing on performance. Therefore, you may understand the importance of coaching, right? Importance of coaching. Therefore, right, what we want to understand is when we address this question, right, as your experience suggests, which one is the most effective practice in terms of improving performance, we may conclude that, right, counseling and mentoring also important, but in terms of improving performance, coaching is the most effective practice. Okay? Clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir, that's clear.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then what we want to learn from this, not to by heart these things and sit at the examination and pass the subject, right? But more than that, we as the managers need to acquire some sort of coaching skills. And when we design training and development programs, we want to add some sort of coaching supports also, right? Our subordinates will go for some sort of training processes. Once it is over, based on the proper understanding of the content addressed at the training, the manager should be able to provide further some sort of coaching support. Then only that will be continued. Unless people will go for some sort of training and development programs and come back and do something, right? We'll not have a careful review of that and will not have a certain continuing support. Through acquiring this coaching skills, that's what we basically expect, right? But beyond that, right, you will be able to be a freelance coach in the future, right? In the future with your retirement plans, right? Unless external, right, commitments you can do in coaching. For that purpose, you can be a member of, right, coaching associations. You will be able to acquire those skills, right, and to be a corporate coach, right, like presently so many people are doing, especially Deepal Surya RHG is one of the well-respected coach, right? Dian Gomez, Kishore Gomez, right, are presently engaged, right, with high-paid, right, coaching assignments in the management development or the executive development programs, right? So like that, right, you also can have a certain interest about the field of coaching for your future. Okay, right. Now we will see some sort of important aspect further, principles of coaching, right? When we talk about the principles of coaching, right, one of the important things is maintaining the confidentiality between the particular coachee and the coach, right? Should have a certain trusted relationship, right? If there are certain things which needs to be well maintained, right, with a certain privacy, secrecy, confidentiality, etc., should be addressed on that, especially in the areas of addressing some sort of weaknesses, right, and minimizing them. If there are certain undesirable behaviors, to unlearn them, right? So those things are not talking openly, not criticizing with others, right? Do not take examples with others, right? So those things are not doing, especially we want to maintain that confidentiality. Then the trust, the relationship, right? And the non-judgmental, and right, and the non-critical support, right, always should be given a certain non-critical support, not to criticize, not to undermine, right, and a belief in the coach's capacity to learn, develop, and change. So always the coach should believe that the coach's skills, right, can be further sharpened, right, the talents can be further developed, right, the abilities can be further transformed as capabilities, right, and the capacity can be further built, right. So like that should have some sort of positive assumptions about the coachee, and should be able to recognize strengths. So through recognizing strengths, building and maintaining self-confidence and self-esteem, right, that is very much important, right, because the coachee should have such kind of esteem, prestige, and self-confidence, right? Then only will behave and work in such a way. And challenging the coachee to move beyond the comfort zone, right? This is very much important because getting training for high performance is a rigorous process. You know that, right? If we analyze some sort of stories like the Diego Maradona, right, as a player, football player, as well as Usain Bolt, right? You may have heard about, even if we take about locally Sangakkara, although he is scored 250 today and tomorrow he comes to the practice, right? So that's how it is believing. If we are focusing on high performance, we want to continue, right? The practice. So that is not in the comfort zone. It is a difficult process. It's a hard task, right? Therefore, coach always will guide on that. Therefore, we have to go beyond the comfort zone, right? For then only we will be able to have superior performance or the outstanding performance. Therefore, challenging the coachee to move beyond the comfort zone, and should have a belief that there are always solutions to issues, right? Always the lockers are producing, right, with the key, right, with the key. Therefore, for whatever problem, there's a solution. Therefore, we want to explore the solutions. There are no problems without solutions, right? Therefore, always we should be able to explore the solutions for whatever the problems or the issues that we are having, and breaking down big challenges into manageable steps, right? Manageable steps. If we want to be success at the end of another 5 years, then we want to have a nice plan, step by step, with the continuity, how we go ahead, and what are the particular winning milestones in that process. So should be demarcated them properly, and we should be able to move up step by step and ultimately reach the winning stones. And so for that purpose, we want to have a good plan based on some sort of manageable steps. And coaching to improve performance, right? Especially in the coaching analysis, right? This is very much important. We want to identify the dissatisfactory levels of employee performance. If there are certain performance gaps, we want to identify those performance gaps at the workplace, and also we want to see, is it worth the time and effort to address, right? And also, do the subordinates know their performance, right? Is this satisfactory, right? Because should have a certain feedback about their performance. It should be given to the respective employees, right? They should be well aware or well known about the particular dissatisfactory performance gaps, right? Then only they will work on that. If not, it will not be, right? Do subordinates know what is to be done, right? As well as, are there obstacles beyond the employee's control, right? If there are, then the management or the managers need to attend and clear those things, and do the subordinates know how to do and what should be done, right? Therefore, in the coaching analysis, we have to address these questions, or these areas need to be addressed and should be clear. And further, does a negative consequence follow effective performance? And does a certain positive consequence follow non-performance? As well as, could the subordinate do it if he or she wanted to do? And also, can the task or job be modified, whether it is required to have a certain redesigning or a modification of the content of the job, right? If it is required, and what if the problem persists, right? What would be the consequence? So these things are some of the important areas which need to be addressed by the managers when they are engaged in the coaching supports as a part of the coaching analysis. Then the coaching discussion, right? Get the employees' agreement that problem exists. That is very much important, because the employee should agree or understand that there is a problem and it needs to be addressed. We want to find some sort of solutions, and based on that, we want to improve the performance. Therefore, the agreement from the coachee or the employee side is very much important, right? So mutually discuss alternative solutions to the problem, and mutually agree on actions to be taken to solve the problem, as well as to follow up to measure the progress or the results, as well as to recognize and praise any achievement where it occurs, right? So that, especially in the coaching process, we have to focus more on effort rather than the outcome. Outcome also important, but in the coaching processes, we want to always encourage the coachee to continue his or her effort. For the particular effort, will get a certain return or a result. That result need to be praised. That result need to be appreciated. And based on that, further should energize to work more, right? Better, then you will be able to improve more performance. So like that, always the effort needs to be appreciated. So recognize and praise any achievement when it occurs. And the superior performance, right? Managers must create an environment that acknowledges employees' contribution to the organization and empowers them to move forward. Right. Further, coaching helps to encourage and enhance effective performance. The managers support the availability and willingness to work will create a positive environment where coaching can be undertaken. Therefore, as I said earlier also, what we expect from here is not to hire the coaches for higher fees or the expenses, but rather than that, managers need to inculcate those qualities and the coaching skills, and from that, they want to provide the coaching support. For that purpose, they should be available and should be willing to support and create a positive environment. Right. Then we'll see that coaching discussion, right? Want to be specific, factual, as well as respectful and supportive in presenting performance issues, as well as seek reaction and response to the supervisor's presentations, as well as seek agreement that performance problem exists and mutually discuss alternatives and solutions to the problems, and mutually agree on goals to be set, as well as actions to be taken and follow up, as well as follow up at the agreed upon time and the way, and recognize and reward improvements and the achievements. These are some sort of steps to be followed at the workplace coaching supports provided by the managers. Right. Now we will see what are the skills necessary for coaching. Okay, just get a screenshot of this. Right. Then we can manage time. Get a screenshot unless take it down quickly. Now we discuss the coaching analysis as well as coaching process, right? Including coaching discussion, etc. Right? As well as now you understood the differences among this counseling, mentoring, and coaching, right? Now we will see what are the skills necessary for coaching. Take around 2-3 minutes and come up with some good points. What are the skills necessary for coaching?
Good communication skills, sir.
Good idea. Communication skills.
Analytical ability, sir.
Sorry?
Analytical ability.
Yes, analytical skills. Analytical skills. Good 2 points. Communication skills as well as analytical skills. What else? Both points are good. Acceptable points. Any other? What else?
Experience.
Experience, okay. Through being experienced. Should be well experienced, should be mastered, or should be a specialist in the respective field. So specialized knowledge.
Setting clear goals.
Okay, the ability to set clear goals, the ability to formulate.
So what about the persuasion skills, sir?
Persuasion skills, good, right? The ability to persuade, persuasion skills. What else?
Empathy.
Empathetic skills, Okay, good. Empathetic skills. What else? Nice points. Communication skills, the ability to persuade, goal setting skills, analytical skills, empathetic skills. You said many.
Observing skills.
Observing skills. Very good. What else?
Teaching skills.
Sorry?
Teaching skills.
Yeah, instructional skills. Yeah, Chaturika, try to say something. Yeah, you try to say something. Sorry?
So
Sorry,
soft
Chaturika.
skills, soft skills.
Okay, soft skills. Soft skill is a combination of so many other skills, isn't it? Yeah. Soft skill consists so many other different
Communication skills.
communication skills. Yeah.
Respective subject knowledge.
Perspective.
Subject knowledge, sir.
Respective subject knowledge. Being a specialist.
Man managing.
Plan managing.
Planning skill, man managing skills.
Okay, okay. Right. People management skills.
Motivation skills.
Motivational skills. Good. The ability to inspire.
Questioning.
Hmm?
Effective questioning.
Effective questioning skills. Okay, really good. Good questioning skills. Good. You said so many. Very good. Now, what is the challenge? You want to acquire all those skills, isn't it? Yes, right? In the future, to be good coaches, you want to acquire those skills. Unless as a manager or as an administrator or as an officer, right, to provide the coaching support, you want to acquire those skills, right? That is the real learning. Under HRD, we discuss about learning, training, development, education, so many concepts, right? So in learning, always should have a certain observable behavioral change, right? So in learning, always the result of learning should be a certain behavioral change, right? Therefore, once we learn these things, what you want to do is you want to acquire those coaching skills, right? As I frequently say that all this not, right? Not to just rewrite at the examination and pass the subject and earn the certificate, right? What we love to see is you truly practice these things at your workplace, right? You truly practice these things in your industry, right? Right? You truly use this knowledge and skills for the betterment of your supportive staff, right? Then only we can develop our organizations, then only we can develop our industry, right? Then only the economy and the country will be developed, right? Therefore, always try to use what you learn, right, from these subjects. Try to practice them, right? And see, right, whether they are true or not, right? That's also can be identified. So you should try to put, right, this knowledge in practice. That is applied knowledge. That is applied knowledge. It will not be forgotten. It will not be forgotten. Throughout your career, right, you will have it. And day by day, you will be able to sharpen that. Right? If you just by heart and sit only for the examination without practicing, then it will be forgotten soon. It will be forgotten soon. Right? But if you try to practice these things, it will be forever with you. Right? That's what basically we want to see. Right? Okay, then we will see what are the skills necessary for coaching. As you all very correctly said that, right? We'll see what are the ones, right? The most important thing is the communication skill. Communication skill. right? Therefore, rest of all those things are related with communication skills, right? The questioning ability, empathetic listening skills, right? As well as instructional skills or the teaching skills or goal setting skills or clarifying skills, right? To do all those things, you want to have the communication skills, because communication skill is a very broader thing, right? Usually communication skill, right, or the communication is part of our life, right? Part of our life. Throughout our life, we use it. But even in this MBA in HRM program also, there's a different skill course, right? Skill course. In the second year, first semester, you will be able to elect, right? From the electives, right? Communication skills, right? So that is basically the ability to listen and get in them, to understand about performance gaps, issues, etc., as well as getting the employee to state the performance problem, because we should be able to open up the mouth of others. Sometimes you know that the trainees or the subordinates are reluctant to talk, reluctant to express views. So somehow we should try to get their mouths open and get some ideas out, right? That is also basically a communication skill, right? So getting the employee to state the performance problem, right? Why it is a problem, right? Why it is a problem, right? And what they are going to do about it, right? Right? And the manager should be able to paraphrase, right? As well as the ability to be specific and descriptive in communicating, as well as communication in micro training, especially in the briefing sessions, etc. Right? Micro training, basic attendance skills, feedback, paraphrasing, reflection of failing, as well as open and closed questions and focusing. So all those things are added with this communication skills. Therefore, communication skills is the primary or the primitive skill that we are required to have. And then the interpersonal skills, right? The ability to maintain healthy interpersonal relationship, right? The ability to win the hearts and minds of subordinates or trainees or coachee, right? This is very much important, right? Without winning the heart, very difficult, right? So you should be able to find the place as a coach. You should be able to find a place in the hearts and the minds of your subordinates, right? Winning the hearts of others, right? They should feel free to talk to you. You should be approachable. You should be friendly. You should be friendly. They want to feel that you are prepared to listen and guide. They want to have a trust that as the coach, you will not be undermined. You will not let down. You will not criticize. So such kind of trust should have about you to the subordinates. That's why the coach want to possess these interpersonal skills, right? Indicating respect, right? And immediacy, prompt actions, prompt response, prompt clarifications, prompt guidance, right? So you should be quickly responding, should have a higher level of responsiveness. You should be sensitive about their concerns and address that. And objectivity, right? Should have a certain quantifiable, measurable criteria in terms of assessing or evaluating the progress or the improvement, rather than having a certain qualitative, vague assessment. Planning, should have good planning skill. That's very much important. Should have a certain consistent behavior. Sometimes you may have seen that some of the persons are in one mood in the morning, another mood in the afternoon, another mood at evening. Some of the subordinates are reluctant to come to the rooms of bosses or the managers to talk and get clarifications, because they say that today the mood of the boss is not good. So avoid talking. May have come with a certain problem at home, right? So giving different types of interpretations about the behavior of bosses by the subordinates, by subordinates, because they don't have the so-called consistent behavior. It is not stable, it's unstable, right? A good coach should be able to maintain positive mood always, should be approachable at any moment. So with the courtesy in a polite way, the coachee will address, even in a busy moment. So such kind of confidence should be given. If not, they will avoid. If the coachee or the subordinates are trying to avoid the boss or manager, then how to maintain that healthy interpersonal relationship, right? So the boss should be in a cool mind, even in a highly hot-tempered context with other people, should be able to address in a cool approach. That's what basically expect from a coach, building trust, and should truly demonstrate integrity, a higher level of honesty, and as a principled person, to do things as said and to say what's did, should have that transparency in line with that demonstrating integrity, right? So that is basically interpersonal skills. So you can understand that. Therefore, mainly to be a good coach, right? Not only the subject knowledge, not only being highly skilled in the particular task, not only being experienced, that is added with that wealth of experiences. To be a coach essentially required that. Essentially should be an expert in the particular field, or should be a high achiever, high successor in the respective field, right? But when we are seeing about the skills are mainly associated with communication skills and the interpersonal skills. Under those two, we can see many. Right. Then we'll see the effectiveness of coaching. Employee participation in discussion is very much important, should be able to freely add their views and having a certain constructive input, and should be very supportive, right? And should be able to use constructive criticism. That is not only to just highlight the gaps, but even should be given some sort of ideas or solutions to bridge the gaps, right? So that is the constructive criticism. Most of the people are very keen in showing or highlighting the weaknesses, but they are unable to say how to rectify them, how to correct them. Therefore, in the constructive criticism, always we expect some sort of ideas to rectify, to correct the issues. Not only the problems and the issues, come up with suggestions for the solution also. So how many people are able to give suggestions to solve the problems? So they want to be partners of progress, partners of success, not only a partner of the problem, right? Gaps can be highlighted, even in average people. But we need people who are able to make some inputs to solve the particular problem. Should be focused on some solutions also. Therefore, constructive criticism and setting performance goals, right, during the discussion, as well as training and the supervisor's credibility, right? That is very much important about the past performance, as well as the genuineness of the particular coach, right, or the supervisor, right, as well as the organizational healthy climate, right? So for this coaching processes from the organizational side, should have a healthy climate, should have a supportive background in the organization. Then only people will be motivated on that. If organization, if especially top management, right, should be support for that. Should do the necessary allocation in terms of time, if it is required some sort of monetary, right, and any other inspirations should be provided from the top level. Then only at other layers it can be implemented. Therefore, top level management support is very much important to ensure that healthy organizational atmosphere. And the ultimate success of coaching, right, is basically a good coaching relationship is essential. It depends on that, right? Should have good relationship, good understanding, rapport. The employee is the source and director of change. The coach is only the facilitator, convener. Coach is the source of inspiration, guide, right? Will be provided all those things. But source is the employee. Employee has to be changed. Employee has to be hard worked. Employee should have a real need to be an outstanding performer or to maximize their potentials, right? And the employee is whole and unique. Employee will have some sort of unique characteristics, behavioral patterns, some sort of specific talents, capabilities, etc. Therefore, employee is unique. Therefore, the coach wants to identify that and should address what is available, not what is lacking. Sometimes you may have seen that some of the managers are highly highlight about what is lacking. But rather than that, once we got some people, we want to focus on what they are having, and try to capitalize what they are having. They are some sort of strengths. They are some sort of special capabilities. They are some sort of talents, and focus on that. And the coach is the facilitator of the employee's growth. Therefore, coach will provide that facilitation, convening, serving for success, right? Ultimately, the successor is not the coach. Successor or the winner is the employee. Winner is the particular coachee, or the trainee, or the particular employee, right? Therefore, ultimately, the coachee or the employee will be really delighted, based on his or her success, right? Coach will be there as the person who guided, facilitated, and convened, and who brought that person or the employees to the success. That's what basically happening, right? And what's new in here, right? What's new in coaching? Because we do counseling, mentoring, and so many things, right? What new thing is here in the managing performance and coaching, we want to move away from appraisals. As I started the discussion at 6 o'clock, I said that we are traditionally going on performance evaluation, performance appraisal, performance review, etc. But what we are focusing is managing performance, maximizing performance. And so move away from appraisal and focus on development and improvement. And move away from numbers to more qualitative assessments in terms of loyalty, in terms of attachment, in terms of citizenship, right? In terms of commitment of employees. Those behavioral aspects will be ultimately influenced on real growth of people, right? Therefore, not only the numbers. Therefore, move away from numbers to more qualitative assessment and innovate. The process is more important than the formats. The process, the rigorous process that we go through in the training, right, as well as practicing, right, will be very much important to be super performers and emphasize learning and development, empowerment and growth. So these are the words that we want to always utter, right? These are the things that we always need to be inculcated among the particular trainees or the coaches. So emphasizing learning, development, empowerment, and the growth. And where you cannot quantify, don't even try to quantify, right? Some of the areas in terms of the performance, as well as performance outcomes, as well as behavioral outcomes. Because in performance, right, there are two aspects. One is performance outcome, measurable. Another one is the behavioral outcome. So that is qualitative, that is unmeasurable, right? And where possible, use multi-rate feedback system. It is possible, as well as use technology to facilitate learning. as well as synergizing with other systems, right? To synergize and use the review mechanisms as well as encourage employees to own the performance management and monitor the process and follow up on actions taken, right? As a result of that, you will be able to sustain the high performance, right? So that's what basically we want to discuss under this managing performance and coaching. Clear? Any question? Any question? Any agreement, disagreement? Yeah? Are you clear the area that we discussed today? Further discussion will be in the second semester under other my subject, that is performance management. There will be another module or a course as performance management, right? Again, we are discussing about performance management in detail, right? Under that module also. That is in the second semester, right? In your learning process. So this is in line with HRB. Because you know that in the syllabus there are certain interconnected areas, right? Interconnected areas, but without going for an overlapping, right? We demarcate the areas and based on that we discuss. All right. If you don't have questions.
So excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am Vikram. I think you can remember me. I'm from Department of Health.
Yes, Vikram. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
There was
joined
an
to
issue
the series little later, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Myself and Senani.
Yeah. I remember. Two of you came there.
Okay, so there was a communication in my phone that actually that is why I couldn't contact you earlier.
All
anyway,
right.
I just need to go back with you. The question you made that in the middle of the session,
Yeah.
compare and contrast the principles of counseling and mentoring and coaching. That was a question.
Yeah.
In your answer, the
Yeah, here.
highlighting one in your answer, highlighting, emphasizing one of our friends' answer,
Yeah.
you pointed that which one is the most effective.
Yes.
You pointed the
Yeah.
question which one is the most effective practice in terms of improving performance.
Yes.
You told that is coaching. But
Yes.
I would like, but there is another part in this question. You just didn't focus actually, as I believe, justify your position, citing appropriate examples from your own work life.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I have to think. There is things I have to share with you.
Okay.
Actually, we have faced very recently. So you also know that the situation in our department.
Yeah.
We have ever faced tragedy in our system. Actually, number of our officers were prisoned. Number of officers dismissed. Number of officers are in these days they are under investigation.
Very unfortunate situation. I understand.
Now all the subordinators and workers, the managers even, they are shocked. They are disappointed, very disappointed.
True.
Okay. Now you know that in this system now, actually what we are doing in medical supply division under Ministry of Health, we are supplying the medical supplies to entire government healthcare system.
Yeah.
Okay. So our main duty is ensure the continuous availability.
Yeah.
So without following, usually we are following the protocol and procedures, but on behalf of the patient, we did not get in risk. We try to ensure the patient's requirement always. But our recent experience was not good. Now the people are very disappointed. Now what the people are doing is just to follow the protocols. Whatever happened to the patients, as he said, whatever happened to the patient, we are just following the documentation and other parts. Now we are in this stage and we try to upgrade the performance with using this mentoring and counseling. not the coaching actually, but our experience is we are still fail. We are underperformance. Now within this situation, my understanding is for this case, all these our requirement is beyond all these 3 points: counseling, mentoring, and coaching. What do you think about this?
Beyond these things, what?
Beyond this, it is not applicable to upgrade our performance. The counseling is not help. Mentoring is not help. Even the counseling is not help. So our requirement is to upgrade our performance. To my knowledge, my understand, beyond all these 3 things, something other than that. You see, sir? We have to find another solution. So actually, this situation has happened due to the unexpected situation. Anyway, now we are underperformers. That directly affected to the patient, who are the end users and the customers of our services.
I understand. Usually in a corrupted background, under a corrupted leadership, right? The employees are getting disappointed, right? Especially those things happen, you know, that under a very corrupted leadership at the ministerial portfolio level, right? Misled and engaged in some kind of well-planned corruptions. People were in trouble. Ultimately, they had to be penalized, right? Therefore, that ethical leadership is very much important. In the absence of that, right, counseling, coaching, mentoring, or whatever other performance improvement strategy will not work, right? Therefore, that ethical leadership is essentially required, because these are some sort of methods which is used in the high-performing organizations, right? Not only in the local context, even in the global context, coaching is practiced. Coaching has found as one of the highly successful performance improvement strategy under HRD, right? So in the health ministry, right, sorry to say that it is not a problem in line with counseling, mentoring, or coaching and their weaknesses. It is totally according to the general understanding and the public perception, as well as according to the judicial decisions or the judgments given, and based on the way that who planned those things are suffering now, can be really understand that it is due to unethical, corrupted leadership at the ministerial level. So that's why, especially the people who are under that are basically now disappointed. They are now fearful because those things have not been done by one person. They are collective efforts. They have not happened overnight, right? They have happened as a continuing planned process. It cannot be done by one person. So that reality has to be understood. As a result of that, due to some sort of political pressures, external or internal, as well as due to pressures from the higher levels of the organization, other people may have been engaged. As a result of that, whoever person having a certain engagement may have a certain perceived fairness also, right? Therefore, that's why especially, right, in the coaching should have that integrity, should have that ethical leadership. In the absence of that, it cannot be done, right? These methods, that's why I said even the top level support is essentially required, right? In the absence of top level support, right, when the leader is corrupted, right, how to correct other things. Therefore, these are not the issues, right? Health ministry or whatever the ministerial level corruptions activities and their results are not the issues associated with best management practices. They are the problems associated with the particular leadership styles of those corrupted figures. They need to be transformed. They need to be changed. They should have the integrity, right? Unless these strategies or the techniques will not work well, right? That is the problem. Now, if we take about some sort of other high-performing organizations in the corporate sector, right, when it is receiving that, right, good leadership, they are performing better. They strongly believe about coaching. As well as I said, so many examples. If we take about some sort of outstanding successes, right, behind all those success, there is a certain coaching support, coaching support, some sort of guidance support. Right. So what we want to collectively understand is in the health ministry's case, very clear, well known to the public. Now they are public secrets. People know how things have been happened, how people were suffered, even still how people are suffering. So it is really a tragedy. It's a tragedy, right? Very unfortunate situation, right? Due to some sort of very corrupted, unethical, bad leadership. They are not the problems associated with these well successful management practices. Okay, so that's what basically we want to understand. Right. So ultimately what we concluded here is basically that coaching as the most important one, as theory and practice suggest out of these three. Okay, any other questions, any other observations?
Sir, this is Taumian.
Yes, Taumian.
The last point what you shared was very interesting to me, that moving away from the conventional performance appraisals and focus more on qualitative assessment and all. Just a general question, sir. Now, because now this is something completely surprising, because even in my organization and most of the organization, that we are still continuing with the appraisals, to really get the performance. But do you think that is it changing now in Sri Lanka in a general way?
In terms of?
That moving away from performance appraisals and focus more on development and
yes, certainly. What is required is basically still most of the organizations, Tomian, heavily depend on this annual performance appraisal. In the annual performance appraisal, what is happening is just only evaluating the performance, right? And giving a certain feedback. Even sometimes that feedback is not taken as a constructive feedback. So that's why going beyond the performance appraisal, performance evaluation, or performance review, what is required is to go for the performance management, right? Especially in the high performing private sector organization, we can see a certain positive move on that. But especially in some of the traditional organizations, still there is no significant progress on that. So what basically researchers suggest is to move away from traditional performance evaluation and performance review process to performance management or managing performance. When we are going for managing performance or performance management, it is always focusing on continuous improvement of performance. It consists performance appraisal also. In organizations, what really happen is mostly depend on performance appraisal. They are not practicing so-called performance management. Is it clear?
Understood. Yes, understood. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Right. Can you see this? Can you see this Word document I shared? Kushani, Ishara, Tomian, is it clear?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just have a look. So this is the suggested assignment. Not a difficult one. It's an easy one. You want to do truly an organizational study. And you want to give the details of the respective HR manager that you interviewed or that you talked. Not necessarily to be face-to-face, but virtually. You can attend on this. Okay. So just giving an idea in advance about the assignment, and the submission date will be in October, 7th of October. Okay, right.
Have you uploaded this into LMS?
Yes, we'll do that. Just I brought to your attention today, right, to share that. I will make an arrangement, right, to upload that. Okay.
Sir, is there a specific reporting structure expected for this one?
Yes, format will be suggested with the details of the assignment. Okay. Will be given that. And also another article will be published, right? That is basically about producing global executives. Okay, producing global executives, right? That's also will be provided, right? Therefore, expect that also. Just give me 1 second. Okay, I will upload that. I will give all those articles to Miss Harini. So probably Miss Harini will take up the next discussion on coming Sunday. Now she's getting well. Therefore, we covered on 3 days. On 3 days, especially introductory area as well as training and development area, right? Preparation of training, right? Programs, as well as today discuss about managing performance and coaching. And next we want to discuss about adult learning, right? That is very interesting area, especially how adult learning theories and the concepts should be taken into consideration when we are planning training initiatives at our organization. Because not like the children, we know that the adults learning styles are different. Therefore, those things are very much important to be considered, especially in the designing contents of the training programs, as well as selecting appropriate training techniques and developing the learning activities. Right? Therefore, probably that area will be discussed by Ms. Harin, right? And next day will be the 4th day. You know that there are 6 days schools, right? On the last day, there will be a classroom assessment, as I said at the beginning, right? So by next week, probably, right, you will get another activity and we will form some teams, right? And as the teams, you want to virtually interact and be prepared for a classroom presentation, right? Classroom presentation. Okay. Therefore, all those details will be provided. Right. Okay. Then thank you so much, right, for the active engagement today. Right. We had the rich discussion. Right. Still feel free if you have any question or feedback, any request to be made, then I can consider about that in relation to the lecture series, right? Or any other day schools that already you had, especially for this labor laws area, laws governing employment, right? If you have any request, concerns, etc., you can make any request. No? Right? Okay, then thanks very much. Right? Good time to wind up, right? Time is 9 o'clock. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, good night.